My mom called my baby ugly at her birthday party. I cut ties, erased her from every photo, and now she's playing the victim on Facebook. Hey everyone. Before we kick off today's video, I've got a favor to ask. We've noticed our channel isn't getting as much love lately, and subscribing is one of the easiest ways you can help us out. It's quick, free, and it means we can keep bringing you awesome content. Your support really means a lot, so let's work together to keep this channel growing. Thanks a bunch. Now, let's dive into the video. So, when my daughter Sarah turned 1, we wanted her birthday party to be easygoing and chill, like when you feel a gentle breeze on a summer afternoon or catch that sweet smell of cake on your fingers long after eating. We kept it small, inviting just family and neighbors, setting up mismatched folding chairs on the lawn. The paper plates nearly collapsed under store-bought cupcakes, and kids were running around screaming with no particular purpose. It was one of those days you wouldn't write poetry about but might post a few grainy photos online with a caption like, "Can't believe she's 1 already." And then just go about your day. I didn't intend for it to be memorable, at least not in the way it turned out. Sarah looked adorable in her light yellow romper with a cute little bumblebee sewn on the front, although one of her shoes was lost within 20 minutes. My husband, Rick, held her awkwardly as we all sang happy birthday way too slowly and way too loudly. My sister Donna joked about how tone-deaf we all were, and we laughed a bit too hard because that's just our style, overcompensation at its best. The air was filled with the smell of plastic forks, citronella candles, and burgers grilling. Then, my mom showed up, fashionably late as always, with a massive gift wrapped in shiny gold paper. You'd think we were crowning royalty, not celebrating a baby trying to eat her own birthday cake. My mom, Elena, wasn't great at picking up on the vibe of a room. She had this knack for walking in and changing everything. She kissed Sarah on the head without really seeing her and then turned to me with that smile she does with just her lips, not her eyes, and said, "You look tired," loud enough for Donna to notice. "Still carrying that baby weight, huh?" I laughed it off quickly because I spent my whole life trying to not react when she made those digs. Rick, being the hero he is, tried offering her a burger or drink, but she brushed him off like he was a pesky fly, too busy analyzing the party like it was a scene from a war movie. The real kicker happened while we were trying to get Sarah to blow out her first birthday candle. Everyone crowded around the table, taking pictures, trying to look eager. I leaned in close, helping Sarah aim her tiny fingers at the flame. Then, out of nowhere, my mom whispered in my ear, "She's going to grow up ugly like you." I didn't even flinch. I just froze there, smile plastered on, one hand holding Sarah's little wrist, the other gripping my phone tight. Sarah kind of sneezed, the candle went out, and everyone cheered. But even though the moment moved on, I couldn't. Later that night, after Sarah was asleep and we'd cleaned up the icing disaster on the porch, I sat scrolling through the day's photos, not really knowing what I was searching for. Then, I found it. It was blurry and overexposed, my face caught in that awkward almost laugh. Behind me, my mom's face was just visible, her smile hook-like, eyes locked on me. Nobody noticed her then, everyone was focused on Sarah, but I saw it. I stared at that picture too long. Rick came in drying his hands and asked if I was looking through the photos. "Yeah," I said, without moving. "That one's cute," he commented, pointing at a picture of Sarah with frosting in her hair. I didn't show him the other one. Didn't say a word. I just saved it under evidence. Moms like mine make you question whether your memories are yours or theirs. She had a way of twisting things. I wasn't sure if I was overreacting or just not healing, but this time I had proof. A snapshot of the exact moment my brain said, "Enough." That was the first picture I edited her out of. I used this app teens use for perfecting selfies, started small, cropping her out, removing shadows. Then I moved on to other group photos, by the grill, holding Sarah but not really holding her. Delete, crop, cover with digital paint. It became an obsession, like cleaning a wound you didn't realize was still bleeding. The next day, I printed out 10 of my favorite photos and hung them in Sarah's room, all of them beautiful, bright, happy, and entirely mom-free. A few days later, Donna texted me, "Hey, where's the picture of mom holding Sarah?" "The one from the cake didn't come out," I replied, and left it at that. So, I technically gave the right response, but that night I had this crazy dream. It was like I was trying to take a family photo, but every time I attempted to smile, my mom would lean in and say something that made my smile crumble like wet paper. When I woke up, I felt this fierce resolve in my chest. I wasn't going to let Sarah, my daughter, grow up hearing the same kind of toxic stuff I did. I wasn't going to wait for another party photo or some whispered insult pretending to be truth. I was determined not to let my mom insert herself into Sarah's story like she did mine, with her harsh words and that crooked smile. If she couldn't love Sarah properly, then she wouldn't love her at all. So, I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through every digital photo album, every place my mom had left her mark. I began deleting her out of them, one by one, picture by picture, memory by memory. Revenge doesn't always have to be loud and dramatic. Sometimes, it's as simple as hitting the delete button. That was my starting point. You know, there's a difference between forgetting someone and deciding they just don't deserve a spot in your memories. I didn't get that until I was folding Sarah's mismatched baby socks in the laundry room. Then it hit me, how my mom used to call me thick around the middle when I was 12. Not like she was trying to be mean, but with a tilt in her voice, like she was pointing out a problem she thought would just get worse. And she wasn't totally wrong. Not about my weight, but about how I saw myself. By the time I was 16, she'd upgraded the insult to plain. She'd say it casually, as if she was doing me a favor by getting it out there before anyone else could. I remember the night before prom, trying to curl my hair and burning a strand, while hearing her through the door saying, "She's just forgettable. Maybe it's the eyes." As if I wasn't right there, like I wasn't trying to disappear faster than she could make me feel invisible. At 22, I told her I wanted to move across the country and maybe go to grad school. She didn't even flinch. Just muttered, "You were probably a mistake anyway," like she was crossing it off a shopping list. I didn't cry, I just nodded. Because when someone drops a truth bomb like that, you either let it sink into your bones or spit it out before it sticks. I let it stay with me for years. But now I have Sarah, and being a mom makes you either want to protect your kid from the harshness of the world or prepare them for it, pain by painful moment. I chose to protect her because I know how sharp that first cut can be. I'd rather her be clueless than quietly hurting before she even knows what's happening. So, I dug deeper than just photos. I found old flash drives, cloud backups, and printed albums I hadn't looked at in ages. There was a picture of my wedding, with my mom there, looking like she was witnessing a disaster in slow motion. I opened it in an editing program and just painted her out. Took about 10 minutes. 10 minutes to erase decades of her clinging to me, like warmth was a foreign concept to her. Gone. I looked at the picture after, and the space where she used to be was just light and air. It looked way better without her. I moved on to a Christmas photo from 3 years ago, where she had made some snide remark about salt and how it might affect Sarah. Said it with a giggle and a fork in her mouth. I was too worn out to argue. In the photo, she was gone, replaced by the soft glow of the tree and Donna's toddler throwing a plastic ornament at the cat. I erased her from 24 images, which is impressive since we only had 13 guests at the party, but she somehow managed to insert herself into every scene anyway. Like she was sure that no moment could happen without her being part of it. Donna noticed first. She texted me 2 days after I posted the revised album online with, "Where's mom in these pics? Did she leave early?" I wrote and deleted my response a few times before settling on, "She must have stepped out when those were taken." Technically, that wasn't a lie. Spiritually, maybe it was. Rick noticed next. He gave me that long, deliberate look he usually reserves for deciding whether to hug me or suggest therapy. At dinner, he finally asked, "Are you sure this is the path you want to take?" I looked at Sarah, with her cheeks full of mashed peas and her face just radiating love and innocence, and I said, "I'm already halfway there." What I didn't add was that even if I had a time machine, I wouldn't go back and change a thing. Thinking back, I wish I could erase Eleanor from all my birthday memories, dance recitals, and those tough moments in front of the mirror. She gave me the fuel to hate what I saw in myself. Late one night, while scrolling through my phone in the dark, a notification popped up. It was a message, just one line without a greeting. "Why am I blocked from your daughter's baby album?" I stared at the screen for so long it went dark again. I didn't reply because I didn't need to. She already knew why. She just didn't want to admit it. And honestly, a part of me waited to see if she'd send more messages, call, or even drop by as if nothing was wrong, like I was the one overreacting, like it had always been me misunderstanding her, pretending her hurtful comments were just harmless little jokes. But she never followed up. She didn't push because she must have realized that this time, I wasn't backing down. I was done, cutting ties for real, and she wasn't coming back. There's a kind of revenge that's quiet, no smashed glass or shouting matches. It doesn't leave bruises or evidence in driveways. It's like slipping poison into a sweet cup of tea. It seems almost fine until you realize it's making you sick. And if you do it right, no one can trace it back to you. That's how I started dealing with my mom, as if she were a silent illness I'd finally decided to treat after years of acting like everything was fine. It began with those photos, but that was just the start. Her influence touched everything, and I wasn't done uprooting it yet. First off, I took her off our family calendar. Rick and I use it to keep track of birthdays, appointments, preschool visits, and all that. I deleted her email so she wouldn't get any more invites. I erased all her past events and any reminders of her presence. Then, I changed the location of Sarah's daycare picnic and only told folks who wouldn't spill the beans. When Donna asked why the venue changed, I just said they were having plumbing issues. That was good enough for her. No one questions logistics when kids are involved, everyone assumes someone else is at fault. Rick was watching me, like he was trying to figure out if I was protecting myself or plotting something bigger. One night, after Sarah was tucked in and I was editing another old photo, he asked, "Are you going to tell her?" I didn't look up. Tell who what? He gave me that look I knew too well. Don't play dumb with me, Jenna. So I shut my laptop and met his eyes. Are you going to tell your mom why you're cutting her out of everything? I didn't answer right away because there was so much I wanted to say, but none of it would come out right. So I just shook my head. She doesn't deserve closure, I finally said. She never gave me any. That was the most honest thing I'd said in months. There was no closure when she told me I was prettier before my teeth came in. I was just 10 years old, excited in my new pink dress because it wasn't another hand-me-down. She looked at me and said, "You used to be cute before those teeth." She treated me like an adult she didn't want anymore. No closure when she mocked me for crying at my graduation or said no man would ever marry someone as emotional as me. And nothing when she claimed Sarah would grow up ugly like me. So no, she wasn't getting nice phone calls or formal explanations. She'd figure it out through absence, like everyone else does. And absence, well, it has a way of creeping in. It fills the room slowly, like smoke, barely there at first but suffocating when you've waited too long to escape. She must have felt it too because less than a week after I kicked her out of the picnic, she showed up at my door. It was late on a Thursday afternoon. The light was soft, and the smell of warm mulch floated from the untended flower beds. Sarah was happily playing with toy blocks on the floor, humming her little toddler tunes. And then the doorbell rang. I knew who it was before I opened it. Eleanor stood there, clutching a fancy gift bag with glittery handles and ribbons, looking like it came from some upscale downtown shop. So, there she was, sporting her usual forced half-smile that said, "I'm trying to be nice, but I'm too drained to put in the real effort." And I'll give her this, she didn't start off with a lame joke, an awkward question, or even a sorry. Instead, she just went straight to the point, thought I'd drop by for Lily. I stayed put in the doorway, not budging an inch. Letting her in wasn't on my agenda. Inside, Sarah had stopped her little humming tune. She glanced up, peered at the door, and then back at whatever was brewing in her toddler brain. Eventually, I let Eleanor in, more because I was curious about what she'd do next than out of any polite instinct. She approached Sarah, crouched down like some sketchy fairy godmother, holding out a bag like it was full of tricks, not treats. But Sarah wasn't buying it. She didn't even crack a smile. She just looked at Eleanor for what felt like forever before going back to her blocks, picking up a green one. It was like the moment just drifted on by. I noticed my mom's face briefly looked puzzled, her lips drooping ever so slightly, not that most would catch it, but I knew every line of her poker face. She waited for Sarah to toddle over, expecting that natural kid urge to reach for a known adult, only it didn't happen. In that split second, something snapped into place. Even kids can tell when affection's a facade. I took the gift bag, not bothering to peek, and said what needed saying, "I think it's time you left." No shouting, no fuss from her side. She just nodded, turned on her heels, her shoes tapping loudly as she left like she had somewhere urgent to be. Only she didn't. Not anymore. I wasn't going to let her hold the key to my life, not ever again. All this time, I thought if anyone was going to back me up, really say yeah, I saw it too, it'd be Donna. We both grew up under the same roof, with those stifling rules and silent treatments that dragged on too long. Donna was there when Mom called me dramatic for crying at Dad's funeral, pulling her aside to whisper, "Thank God it was you, not her, I couldn't handle that." And when Eleanor critiqued my looks, she'd turn and beam at Donna like sunshine through clouds. We used to joke about it in our 20s, sprawled on my apartment floor with cheap wine, dubbing her Jacqueline Mom, when we dared to. But we never dug deeper. Never asked why she got the gold while I got gravel. So, when Donna texted, "Can we talk?" I knew what was coming, the guilt trip, the confusion, the maybe you're overreacting. Even bracing for it, my stomach knotted like it did back when I'd hear Eleanor's voice summoning me like I was in trouble, even if I wasn't. Donna showed up, coffee in hand, with that tight-lipped look that tried to hide a frown. She didn't sit immediately, just hovered by the counter like she wasn't planning to stick around. I let her talk first, knowing she needed to steer this story. "You've been editing her out of everything." She tiptoed around, her words soft but sharp. I just nodded, leaning on the wall. "Yeah, I have." She paused, then asked, "Isn't that a bit much?" That's when I handed her the photo. I'd promised myself no more Eleanor memorabilia, but I needed Donna to see. It was from Sarah's birthday, everyone clapping, and Eleanor leaning into me, her face twisted like she was spewing venom. She called Sarah ugly. "Like me," I told Donna. Donna stared at it, silent. I watched her eyes wander over the photo, taking in faces frozen mid-cheer, and my smile interrupted. I expected denial, an excuse, "You misheard her," but those didn't come. Instead, she quietly said, "I thought you looked happy in this one." Exhausted, I shook my head. "Did you really think I was?" She didn't answer. That silence spoke volumes. "You know, I always thought I was just overly sensitive, the delicate type, the one with too many feelings and not enough laughs. But maybe, just maybe, I was the one telling the truth before anyone else was ready to hear it." Then everything blew up. One night, Eleanor posted on Facebook. Not a private message, not a phone call, but a status for everyone to see: friends, neighbors, her old church buddies, even people she worked with way back when. It said, "My daughter has poisoned my relationship with my granddaughter. Pray for me during this painful time." Some people don't know what family means until it's too late. Within the first hour, it got shared 17 times. Folks started commenting, sending hugs and prayers, sharing their own stories about kids getting cold or acting entitled. Some talked about forgiveness. One lady said, "You're still her mother. Don't give up on her yet." I read all of it, just sitting there in my dark kitchen with the glow of my phone burning into my eyes. My hands were shaking with a mix of anger, embarrassment, and something else I couldn't quite name. Maybe it was grief for the tiny part of me that had hoped she'd someday say, "I was wrong. You didn't deserve that." But she never would. Instead, she went nuclear. I thought about just leaving her post unanswered, letting her wallow in her own drama while I stayed quiet. But then I realized silence had kept me trapped for way too long. She was happy to speak in silence, saying nothing while nasty comments flew. Whenever memories got uncomfortable, we just pretended they didn't exist, expecting me to take every insult quietly. So I broke my silence with just one comment. I wrote on her page, "You should pray for the woman in that photo. She doesn't exist anymore." By morning, there were over 200 comments. Some people backing her, some backing me, but the ones that hit hardest were the ones asking what really happened. For once, she didn't control the story. Something changed in that uncertainty, because maybe people didn't need to know everything. It was enough that she wasn't the only one talking. After the big showdown, there was this strange silence. When all the ranting stopped, the social media storm settled, and the door you shut on someone finally stayed still, not because they stopped pushing, but because they finally gave up. That was the quiet I woke up to on Thursday morning, sipping coffee with Sarah crawling around the living room in her little footy pajamas, babbling away and playing with blocks. The world felt quieter, not exactly peaceful, but emptied out in a way I hadn't felt before. It was like the silence after gutting a house, where the floors still echo with memories of what used to be there. I'd been mulling over the baby book for months. Ever since Eleanor showed up with that gift bag and Sarah instinctively pulled away like she knew better than to let any of that poison in. Something clicked that day, something decisive. This wasn't just about cutting my mom out of our present life. It was about making sure she didn't get a place in our future, protecting Sarah from ever knowing that side of our family history. Kids remember more than we think. They pick up on the tone of voices, the tension in their mom's face, how hands clench when the phone rings. I remembered all of it, and I wasn't going to let Sarah inherit that kind of baggage. So, I started writing our own baby book by hand. It felt more meaningful that way. I filled it with pastel pages and personal questions. Thick brown leather, stitched together with care. I wrote about Sarah's birth, how her little fingers curled around my thumb like she knew who I was. Her first laughs, her favorite foods. I remembered Rick putting together her crib in the middle of the night, muttering the whole time as we debated if white noise would help her sleep. But I didn't mention Eleanor. Not even a footnote, not a background character, not a name scribbled beside gifts. She was a ghost, and ghosts don't belong in baby books. Each page was like a little rebellion, each line saying, "You don't live here anymore." Rick watched me working on it, staying quiet, not asking questions, not giving advice. One night he took the finished book from me and gently placed it on the shelf above Sarah's changing table, like it was something sacred. And maybe it was. The next morning, Sarah waddled over to that shelf, pointing with her little finger. She looked at it like she knew it was special. So, there I was, just chilling when she looks up at me with those big excited eyes and says her very first full-on sentence. Not just a single word, but a whole sentence, which was pretty impressive. She said, "Nanagon," and I didn't freak out or anything. I just smiled, got down to her level, and was like, "Yeah baby, she is." There was no meanness in it, not even a hint of bitterness. It was just the plain truth, you know? No need for some long story because Eleanor wasn't just gone from our lives, I made sure she couldn't come back. She was like a whisper or a twisted memory, hanging around like a ghost pretending to be family. But hey, I didn't get rid of my mom, I just stopped thinking about her for a while, and that was enough. We settled into a quieter life. Rick and I were sleeping better, and Donna was keeping her distance, not sure if she should enjoy the silence or face it. I didn't pressure her at all. Eleanor not being around meant I had more space to breathe, and I wasn't in any rush to fill it with old regrets or unresolved family drama. But then, after about 6 months, a letter showed up. No return address, and the postmark? Totally unrecognizable. Just my name on it, in handwriting I hadn't seen since my mom used to begrudgingly sign my permission slips. At first, I thought about just torching it, I even held it over the sink for a minute, wondering if it was worth more than just paper. But curiosity got the best of me, so I opened it. Inside was a photo of me at 13. Yep, no makeup, awkward braces, a baggy t-shirt, and my hair in a stringy ponytail. But I was smiling, not a fake, cheesy smile but a real, shy, hopeful one. It seemed like whoever snapped that photo really cared about me. On the back, in her handwriting, she'd scrawled one line, "You were never ugly." I just didn't know how to love pretty things. No, I'm sorry, no explanation, just a confession that felt kinda cowardly. It was a truth that seemed too late to matter and too early to forgive. I looked at that photo for ages, not because I missed her or thought she'd changed, but because I wanted to remember the girl in the picture. I wanted to remember that, despite everything, I still felt like I was worth noticing, worth capturing. I didn't write back or call her. I didn't even post a response. But I held onto that photo, not for her, but for me, to remind myself of what I've been through. Thanks for keeping up with my story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on the next crazy chapter.